Some places hold things inside them. Not memories, something older than that. Tonight I have 3 stories, all submitted by real people, all set in hotels across the United States, and not one of them has a clean ending. These are the accounts that stayed with me longest. Stay with me. Room 214 didn't exist on the floor plan. I was driving through Amarillo, Texas, in late November, sales route, nothing glamorous. My company booked me into a mid-range chain off I-40, the kind of place where everything is beige and the ice machine is always 1 floor above wherever you're sleeping. I checked in around 10:40 p.m. The woman at the desk was polite but distracted. She slid me a keycard without looking up and said 2nd floor, end of the hall. Room 214. The hallway smelled like old carpet cleaner and something underneath it, something I couldn't name. The rooms went 210, 211, 212. Then 214. There was number 213. I didn't think much of it. Superstition. Hotels do that. I got inside, dropped my bag, and sat on the edge of the bed. The television was already on. Not loud, barely audible. Just the home shopping channel with the volume turned almost all the way down. I turned it off and went to brush my teeth. When I came back out of the bathroom, the TV was on again. Same channel. Same volume. I checked the remote, the batteries were missing. I told myself it was a wiring issue. Faulty set. I unplugged it from the wall and got into bed. At 2:17 a.m. I woke up and the room felt different. That's the only way I can describe it. The air had a weight to it. I lay still for a moment just taking in the ceiling. Then I noticed the closet door was open about 4 inches. I had not opened that closet. I got up. I crossed the room. I stood in front of it for what felt like a full minute before I pushed it open the rest of the way. Empty. Rod, hangers, the little luggage shelf. Nothing. But on the carpet inside the closet, fresh, clear, facing outward, were 2 footprints. Bare feet. Smaller than mine. Like someone had been standing in there facing the room. I packed in under 3 minutes. I went down to the desk and told the night clerk I needed a different room. He looked at my keycard and got very quiet. He said, "We don't use 214. I asked him what he meant. He said the room had been flagged in their system as out of service. A maintenance issue. He didn't know how I'd been assigned it. He said the woman who checked me in had gone home at 10. Check-in had closed at 10. He moved me to a room on the 3rd floor and neither of us said anything else about it. I left at 5 a.m. and I have not taken that route through Amarillo since. I don't know who was assigned to check me in that night. I don't know whose key card I was handed. And I've thought about those footprints, facing outward, toes toward the room, more times than I can count. The next story came from Oregon, and what unsettles me about it isn't what was seen, but what was heard. The man in 9 kept asking for his wife. My sister and I drove up to Portland, Oregon last March for a long weekend. We found a small independent hotel in the Pearl District, older building, maybe 1920s bones, renovated sometime in the 90s and not touched since. It had character. That's what we told ourselves. We were in room 11. Right next to room 9. The first night was fine. We had dinner, came back late, fell asleep by midnight. I'm a light sleeper. Always have been. I woke up around 3 a.m. to a sound through the wall. Not loud, almost too quiet. A man's voice, low and steady, like he was talking on the phone or maybe praying. I couldn't make out words. I put a pillow over my head and went back to sleep. Second night, same thing. But this time I could make out a few words. He kept saying a name, Margaret. Over and over. Just, Margaret. Please. Margaret. My sister didn't hear it. She sleeps like a stone. I didn't mention it to her. I didn't want to upset the trip. On our last morning, checkout day, I was in the lobby while my sister brought the car around. The woman at the desk was the owner. She'd been there all 3 days, mid-60s, very warm. I asked her casually about the guest in room 9. She looked at me with an expression I still think about. She said room 9 had been empty the entire weekend. A pipe issue. She had a plumber scheduled for Monday. I said I'd heard someone through the wall every night. A man's voice. She set her pen down very deliberately. She said, was he asking for someone? I told her yes. She nodded once, slowly, the way you nod when something confirms what you already suspected. She didn't offer anything else. She wished us a safe drive. I almost left it at that. But I turned back at the door. I asked her who Margaret was. She looked at the window behind me instead of at my face. She said Margaret was the original owner's wife. She passed away in 1987. In the hotel. Then she said, he's been here longer than I have. My sister was honking outside. I walked to the car and I didn't say a word for the first 40 minutes of the drive. I'm still not sure what I heard, whether it was grief that old, or something that just wore the shape of it. That last story was submitted by someone who works in emergency medicine, someone trained to stay grounded under pressure, and I want you to keep that in mind while you listen. Someone had already slept in my bed. I want to be careful how I tell this one because even now I'm not sure what the explanation is. I'm a nurse. I work long shifts. I am not someone who frightens easily, and I am very good at noticing things. This was August, outside of Savannah, Georgia. A conference. The hospital put us up at a nice place, not luxury, but clean, corporate, the kind of hotel where everything looks identical and orderly and exactly where it should be. I checked into my room at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. King bed, blackout curtains, that particular hotel room silence that feels almost pressurized. I set my bag down and immediately noticed the bed. It had been made. Perfectly made, tucked corners, folded top sheet, the little decorative pillow centered at the headboard. But there was a depression in the left side of the mattress. Not a sag from age. A shape. The specific, body-length impression of someone who had been lying there recently. The pillow on the left side had a slight indent too. I called the front desk. They apologized and said housekeeping would come by. A woman arrived within 15 minutes, remade the bed professionally, and left. I thanked her and locked the deadbolt. At 11 p.m. I got into bed on the right side, deliberately the right side, turned off the lamp, and lay in the dark. Sometime after midnight I woke up cold. The air conditioning had not changed. The window was sealed shut. The coldness was next to me. I don't mean drafty. I mean, the left side of the bed was cold. The sheets on the left side were cool in a specific, distributed way. The way they get when someone has been lying there and then left. I turned the lamp on immediately. The left side of the bed showed a depression again. Same shape. Same length. The pillow had an indent. I did not sleep in that room. I sat in the armchair with the lights on until 5:30 a.m. and then I showered and went down to breakfast and told the woman at the front desk exactly what I'd experienced. She looked at my room number on the screen. She typed something. Then she said there had been a few complaints about that room over the years. She wouldn't tell me what kind. I asked if anyone had died in that room. She said she wasn't authorized to share that information, which I have always considered its own kind of answer. What I think about, late at night when I can't sleep, is this: whatever left that impression in the mattress, it was the same size both times. It was consistent. It knew where it slept. And it came back after the bed was made. 3 hotels. 3 states. 3 people who went looking for an ordinary night's sleep and found something they haven't been able to set down since. If you've experienced something in a hotel, a sound, a presence, something that didn't add up, I'd like to hear it. Leave it in the comments. These stories come from real people, and there are more of them than most of us would like to believe. If you want more like these, subscribe. New stories arrive here every week. And tonight, when you're lying in a hotel bed somewhere, and the room feels just slightly wrong, remember that you almost certainly don't know the full history of where you're sleeping.